The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Vach Lombardi, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, season 21, episode number 20. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from Oxnard, California. I don't even know what day it is at this point into camp. I know we're more than halfway through. I know that this is next to the last episode that we will do here live from camp on The Break. We got a show again on Thursday. And then I know most of my crew, which my normal crew isn't even here today, but most of them will be back in Dallas. They will have shows back in Dallas on Monday and Wednesday of next week. So this is our next to last show we'll do out here in Oxnard, and I get to be joined by two people I really respect that are doing an awesome job covering this team throughout training camp. We've got Tommy Yarrish and we've got Nick Harris. Welcome to the show, guys. How you doing?
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. So it's good to be back in the old stomping grounds. You know?
Yeah, Nick's been doing other things, but he always stays close to us. So we figured we'd pull him in since Brian's out and since Vach is out and Amber obviously out today, not feeling great. But that being said, where I want to start, you obviously hadn't been on the air with us throughout camp, but our show hasn't actually happened since everything started with the whole Micah requesting a trade. And so we're going to spend a little time talking about Micah and more talking about it from the standpoint of a bigger picture look. And I want to talk to you guys about your level of concern with regards to a lot of different things that are floating around this. I want to start first, though, with obviously Micah makes the trade request. Jerry then talks to the media. I think that was on Saturday following practice. And a couple of quotes that he had that stood out to me. The first one was he said, this is a negotiation. Does it blow me up? Somebody asked, look, trade me. That's just not a flare sign for me at all in any way. And then he concluded, don't lose any sleep over it. That's one thing I would say for our fans. Don't lose any sleep. What were your thoughts on Jerry's response? And you guys were both there when he talked to the media, and it actually went on for quite a while. Yep. What were your thoughts on the different things he had to say about the whole request?
Yeah, mostly calculated for sure, and rightfully so. He sees this as being in the middle of a negotiation. Now, I think the key point from Jerry's rhetoric on Saturday was that he sees this as closer to the finish line than I think Micah Parsons does. He looks back at that conversation that they had back in March that both sides have said has happened, and I think he sees a finish line in sight, whereas Micah Parsons doesn't see a starting line in sight. So I think there's two different views of what exactly happened back in March, and Micah Parsons wants to get the agent involved, rightfully so. I mean, it is the guy that he has hired at the end of the day, but Jerry Jones, I think, is trying to maneuver it in a way where he sees it as closer to the finish line than Micah Parsons does. He wants to go ahead and push across and get it done. So you saw the maneuvering and you saw the calculated speak from Jerry Jones on Saturday, and talking about, hey, to the fans, don't lose any sleep over this. I think that's him in his mind understanding, like, hey, eventually we are going to pay this guy, but it has to come at the time that he wants, and most likely at the price point that he wants as well.
And at the term points that he wants too, right? I think that's an important part to consider in all this. But look, I don't think there is a high level of concern amongst Jerry Jones, amongst the Cowboys organization. I think this is something that eventually will get done. But I think eventually, fellas, what has to happen is one side has got to give up, right? Like, one side's got to let up here, because Jerry Jones views this as, we had a deal in March, why should I change our terms? Why should I change our terms? Micah Parsons sees it as, okay, we talked about it. I didn't think that this was a negotiation, so now I'm going to get my agent involved. And, I said this earlier today on The Fan, Jerry Jones has done plenty of negotiations. Micah Parsons has negotiated I guess they started negotiation recently, but this is what I mean to say is the Cowboys have negotiated plenty of deals. They know that agents get involved. It's not a new thing with them. They've negotiated with David Mulligetta before, and they respect David Mulligetta. So I don't think it's the most shocking thing in the world for Micah Parsons to ask for the agent to get involved. I think because it is such a high price tag that's going to be paid, Jerry Jones is trying to just get this done and get this over with. Because with Mulligetta, he does a really good job of getting his clients every penny that they can get, especially with their guaranteed money. So that might be why there's some hesitancy to get these conversations going. And so, but eventually, somebody's got to give in first.
My question is, if they both had a resemblance of agreement on terms back in March, right? And Michael was like, hey, just reach out to my agent so we can get across the finish line. Why not do it? You know, and that's my question I've had throughout this whole instance. And it's like, you know, that money that the agent takes, that doesn't come out of Jerry's pocket. That comes out of Micah's pocket. So it's, you know, what exactly is the holdup there and wanting to negotiate with the agent? Is it, you know, when he does have that conversation with David, does he expect to have, you know, a little bit different agreement on terms, different agreement on money, guarantees, things of that nature? I mean, sure, there's probably little, you know, hitches here and there. But, you know, if the player and the team agree on most of these parameters, there's not a whole lot that the agent can really sway that will be detrimental towards, you know, salary cap involvement or anything in future tense. I mean, maybe some void year type situations, but, you know, at the end of the day, that would help the team. So I don't know. The question I have is, why didn't he call the agent when they were so close to the finish line?
Well, that's the part I'm a little confused on, because the way I understand it, and this is the interesting part here, is you got kind of two different stories. You got what Jerry's saying, and then you got what Mike is saying. The parts that match up are they had a conversation in March. Jerry says that they did have an agreement, or it was close. They had they agreed on the terms of the deal, and there was an offer on the table at that point. Micah does say his agent mentioned, hey, maybe we ought to wait. Maybe the timing is not right for us to do a deal. Maybe we should wait for these other things to happen. That's where the story kind of diverges, because Micah says he told his folks, hey, no, I just want to go ahead and get the deal done. Jerry says they took the deal off the table. Yeah. So that's where I'm a little confused on what exactly happened at the point when there was a deal on the table, because I think both have acknowledged that at some point there were some basic ramifications out there. This is what we think a deal is going to be. It just seems like at some point it all fizzled away, and I don't know why that happened.
I think it might be because, sorry, I'm going to cut you off. It might be just because David Mulligetta looks at the deal that they came to and says, hey, we can get you more than this. Like, hey, we can get you more money. You shouldn't take this deal. I think that's what it is, and I think that's the holdup. Is, you know, when Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones came to whatever agreement they were, Micah Parsons goes back to David Mulligetta and he's like, hold on, we can wait here. And they'd made it clear that they were waiting for some of the other pass rushers who are up this cycle to get paid, like T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett. So now that $41 million a year is the number set by T.J. Watt, who most recently signed his deal. Go ahead.
Right, but let me ask you this question though: if that's the case, that doesn't match up with what Micah has said, because Micah said in his well-crafted statement, he said, hey, at the point when I was told that by my agent, I was like, no, I just want to go ahead and get the deal done. Mm-hmm. So if he was just like, let's just go ahead and get the deal done and not wait for those other things, then why, if that's the case, why were they back in the situation where they pushed where they rescinded the deal? I
will say one thing about the Micah statement. There are already some conflicting comments that he made in that statement based on comments that he's made in the past. One being that him and David Mulligetta tried to negotiate last offseason. If you go back to some of the comments that he made last offseason, though, he said something in September where he was like, yeah, you know, I'm going to put out a really good year. I'm comfortable with doing that. And then that very same day, Stephen Jones went on the fan and said Micah made a conscientious decision to wait to negotiate until after the year. Micah never contended that. Mm. And yet in that statement, he said, look, we've been trying to get a deal done since last offseason. So, you know, is there some comments being made by both sides that could benefit them in this current scenario?
Yeah, this
absolutely.
Is negotiation. I get
it is
that,
negotiation,
yeah.
And that's where this one specifically gets a little bit weird for us and how we cover it, because, you know, all we can try to do is stick to the facts, but the facts are really hard to come by in this case, because you have one side saying one thing, the other side saying another thing, and there's very few corroborated comments. The only few corroborated comments that you can find are they had a meeting in March, an offer was talked about, parameters were mostly agreed upon, but there was no offer sheet, there was nothing that was put in stone, and they kind of let it sit for a little while, and now here we are, and the agent has not been reached out to. So, you know, those are corroborated statements that we can take from both sides, but again, they're hard to come by in this case.
And this is one of those situations, too, where I don't know that I think that anybody is necessarily wrong. Like, this is how negotiations go. And that's the point I think Jerry was trying to make is, I've been through a lot of these, especially when you're talking about really big money. There's going to be a negotiating period where it's going to get sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. because both sides are jockeying for position, trying to create leverage for themselves. That's what any negotiation is. You want to get as much leverage as possible, and the most leverage you can. And then once you have the leverage you think you're going to be able to get, then that drives you to be able to make a deal that's comfortable for both people because they know kind of where the leverage points are, right?
Yeah, and you did it with Tommy when he came to you for $32 million per year after his rookie season. I mean, I get it. I understand it. Y'all understand both sides of the coin
I've
here.
done this before. I've done this. I did it with you.
I'm trying to get up to 50.
This is where I'm just like, I don't think that this is as big a deal as everyone thinks it is, or at least how it's being portrayed. We were in a similar situation last year, guys. Yeah. You know, we've been in similar situations over the years. I've seen many situations. You can go back to even before I was with the Cowboys back in the day in the 90s with Emmitt Smith. Like this happens, and right now the Cowboys aren't the only team dealing with it in the NFL. Yeah. There are other teams who also have star players who are saying either give me the deal I want or trade me. And their organizations are in a similar boat where they're like, yeah, we're not looking to necessarily trade you. Yeah. We'll figure this out. And I just think that's a part of the negotiation. You do what you have to do. Myles Garrett did it earlier this offseason. He got the deal he wanted, and now he loves Cleveland, and he's back, right? So I just think it's a lot more than maybe what everybody thinks it might be.
Yeah, and I think it's a product of it being such a public request from Micah. And, you know, the screenshot of the Notes app is never a good thing. You never want your player posting a screenshot of the Notes app. That goes all the way back to high school players, too. That's a key rule here. But I think it's a lot more public. But if you think back to, like, the Zeke dispute, I think that was a little bit more messier behind the scenes, and that got done, obviously.
Yeah.
Whereas I think
Zeke,
this one,
you remember that?
Exactly.
And Jerry made T-shirts out of it.
And they sold shirts, man. So
it's a part of it.
It's fascinating. I think this one is just. I think Jerry may have met his match here when it comes to being business savvy, because the player is business savvy and he has the best agent in football. And so, you know, there's going to be positioning and maneuvering here by both sides.
Well, the interesting part here too is I don't know that the Cowboys have had a star player with as much media savviness as Micah. I mean, Micah has his own podcast. He's been doing the media thing since he got into the NFL. I think that's where it's a little bit different. For me, as an observer, it feels a little different because he's using the media in a way that I don't think most players have typically used, and certainly not star players have used the media.
I think back to Deion, but again, the platform was so much different in those days. Yeah. But I mean, if we're talking like pound for pound and era for era, I mean, you could look at Deion, but if you take into context the Bleacher Report stuff that he does, and you know, being a president of Bleacher Report's video team, I mean, there's a lot more that Micah has here that he can get out to the public. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I actually want to take this a little deeper. I want to go up from a broader perspective and get your level of concern as to how this whole thing may be affecting other parameters or other people, other groups outside of just Micah and Jerry. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Don't put off getting your oil changed, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a Pepper thing.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, Equal Credit Opportunity Lender.
Back to the break.
Choose perfection. Choose LG OLED Evo. Check out the best TV in the game at LG.com.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break, live from Oxnard, California. We're talking a little bit of Cowboys football here. We were talking about Micah Parsons and the contract, and I wanted to talk about it in a little bit of a larger perspective. This question, and I have a series of questions here, a few of them that are more from the standpoint I want to get your level of concern from 1 to 10, 10 being the most, 1 being not concerned at all. The first one, how concerned are you that Micah will no longer be a part of this team going into this season, next season, that his long-term future with the Cowboys will be jeopardized by this contract negotiation?
1, I think he's going to be a Cowboy. I have no concern about that.
I'd give it a 3. It's still pretty low, but leaving some room for foolery, if you will, because there's been a lot of it in this negotiation. Micah Parsons and his side, they are hurt by certain comments that have been made and by the negotiation. They are, and it's not a bluff. Okay. Now, is it a bluff to get the negotiation started? For sure, right. But I don't think it's a bluff necessarily that they feel a type of way. Now,
when you say his group, is it Micah that you think feels that way, or do you think it's his representatives?
It starts with Micah, but it's his group as a whole. Yeah. But I agree that this gets done. I'm mostly with Tommy here. I just put it a couple points higher just because I think even when this deal gets done, a conversation is going to have to be had.
How do you think that reconciles itself? Is it as simple as he gets the money and all of a sudden his feelings feel a lot better? Like that has a way of kind of being the ointment for your feelings.
$40 million makes conversations a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about CeeDee Lamb's relationship with ownership at the moment, and we kind of got a glimpse of that last week when he was talking about the Micah Parsons situation, and you could tell that CeeDee definitely has some leftover feelings from how his negotiation went last offseason, but it doesn't matter for him right now. It'll matter in 4 years when he has to renegotiate, but Jerry Jones is not going to get in his way for 4 years. So do you have to have a positive relationship with ownership to play for a team? I don't think necessarily so. But given Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones' relationship is a little bit more, developed than his ever was with CeeDee Lamb, talking about ownership, then maybe they have a conversation at the end of all of this. But I don't think you necessarily have to have a great relationship with ownership to play for a team. That's just me, though.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah. But the interesting part about that is it's very, very rare that you hear a former Cowboys player that doesn't love Jerry.
Yeah.
That's always been the interesting thing to me about this is they get into these really tough negotiations with their players. They go all in negotiating, but for some reason it doesn't end up being a long-term, I can't stand that guy. Because it could become that, as you said. If there are feelings that are hurt, it certainly could become that, but you just don't hear that. And typically you wouldn't expect to hear it while a player is here, because obviously he's still here. Mm-hmm. But you would think after they retire, after they move on to another team, you would hear those things. And it's just very, very rare you hear that.
I think the Cowboys organization as a whole, and it starts with the Jones family, has a really good reputation of taking care of their guys and being there for their guys and having each other's backs. And, you look at some of the deals that they've negotiated here recently, CD and Dak and Trayvon Diggs. When you're getting life-changing money like that, and sometimes when Jerry Jones pays a little bit more than what's already at the top of the market, then, that's something you appreciate. And like I said, $40+ million makes anybody happy, right?
Yeah,
those conversations get a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to build back up into positive spirits and to build back up into a positive relationship. So, you give them credit for that. Look, they take care of their guys, and Jerry Jones said it the other day. He's not afraid to make large financial commitments and reward his players for performing well. And so I think, guys guys from the past and the present appreciate that. And not to say that there's other ways you can handle it. I think that there are a lot of situations where they can handle these negotiations differently. But at the end of the day, getting their deals done and having their best interests in mind is something that I think the Cowboys do, for the most part, pretty well.
All right, let's move on a scale of 1 to 10. How concerned are you about how this affects other players in the locker room?
I give that about a 2. I think there's a lot of support in that locker room, or I know there's a lot of support in that locker room for Micah Parsons. And, if there was not support for the players, then I might have a little bit more concern. Now, granted, Micah has taken a step forward in leadership, but I don't think it's necessarily been received 100% by the locker room. I'm not saying that necessarily, but I think there are enough guys in his corner in that locker room that want to see him come out on top in this situation that I don't see it affecting the team at the end of the day. And I think Brian Schottenheimer's done a really good job of managing this first crisis that he's had to deal with. It's a lot of adversity to battle in your first training camp, and I think the culture emphasis that he really put on in the offseason, you're starting to see the benefits of that now here in this situation.
Yeah, I'd go with 2 as well. You look at the other day when all this was coming out and guys are changing their profile pictures on social media to pictures of Micah Parsons. They've got his back, and, leadership is different with every player. I don't think Mike is necessarily going to be a rah-rah leader all the time. I think that he's got a unique sense of leadership, and he might not be the best leader on the defense, but he's certainly one of, if not the best player. And I think when you kind of lead by example like he's done in the past, then naturally guys are going to gravitate towards you, and other guys are going to get opportunities because Micah Parsons is opening things up for them. So ultimately, the locker room presence and how, like Nick said, how much Brian Schottenheimer has emphasized culture and togetherness and bonding, this is where you see it pay off. And now the question is, does it pay off on the field when things are tough, when guys are upset and guys are frustrated? Is that when can they stay together when those things happen? That's the next big question.
So then you guys both mentioned Shotty. My question was going to be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think this affects Shotty and his culture that he's trying to create? I'll pivot that question a little bit. Do you think this situation has actually helped or hurt the culture that he's trying to build?
That's a good one. I think I think there's cases to be made for both sides. Can I play that for a second?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think there is cases to be made for both sides. I'll say on the help side because, you see some guys rallying around Micah Parsons, and, that's definitely the culture he's trying to create. But I think on the flip side, it's also creating some individualism in the sense of Micah Parsons, because when he comes out to practice, everyone's looking at him, everyone's seeing him, and everyone's seeing him not participate. So it kind of tells all the other 90 guys in the locker room, like, hey, this is accepted. It's okay. Now, granted, it's Micah Parsons. It's a completely different situation. If Denzel Daxon rolled out there with his hoodie on and no jersey,
give me $50 million.
He might be back at University of Illinois next week. So I mean, it's gonna,
with all due respect.
With all due respect to Denzel Daxon, he's had a great camp. But I think with that, I mean, it definitely singles out guys, and I don't think that's necessarily what Schottenheimer's trying to build.
Yeah, but to that point, I think it's not. This isn't a situation unique to the Cowboys, right? I think there's star players around the league with every team that can kind of do those things. I'm not saying that negates your point, but at the same time, I think deep down these guys know the business side of things, right? And there's going to be more support for him in that sense. And I think there has been positive support for Micah Parsons from this locker room in that sense. I'm with Nick that it's a little bit of both. I lean more towards it's a positive thing just because of how we've seen players rally around him. And the other day when Jerry Jones is talking to the media, and Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs run to the crowd and fire him up as they're chanting, "We want Micah," or "Pay Micah," or whatever it was that they were saying. That's signs of a good thing. That's signs of a good brotherhood, and Brian Schottenheimer seems to love it. I know that's what he's all about, and he's all about his guys showing up for one another and being there for one another because he tries to be there for them. So, I think it's in more ways than none a good thing for this locker room, but obviously it would be even better if this got done.
All right, so now I'm going to put you guys in a position of trying to advise Micah and his group and also advise Jerry. Let's start with Micah. If you could give him, how you think this has to play out going forward, what would you say is the best case scenario for him and how he should handle everything moving in the direction of trying to ultimately get a deal?
Y'all are going to hate this one, I feel like, but if it gets to week 1 and there's no deal, start holding out from games. I think that's probably the best scenario, because I think if he was holding out from training camp, you'd probably see a little bit more urgency. You wouldn't see as much dramatics I think that have happened so far here in camp because he's been here. You think back to last year. You had both sides of the coin. You had CD holding out, and you had Dak that was here. Who got the deal done first? Who had the less dramatics at the end of the day? Well, I think there was a case to be made that both sides had some dramatics, but I think my advice to Micah's side would be if there's not a deal by week 1, hold out from some games.
Let me real quick. Can I challenge you for a second?
Absolutely.
If you hold out, there is potentially, like what I read the other day. Cowboys obviously have a deal in place with him right now, so there is a deal. And I'm not talking about a new deal. I'm talking about his current deal. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, the Cowboys could feasibly put a franchise tag on him next year and feasibly put a franchise tag on him the year after that. I think the total of that, from what I read, was roughly somewhere around $75 million. So if you're saying you're going to miss games, are you comfortable with the idea that you might not play for as much as 3 years, and you will basically allow $75 million to just go down the drain for a long-term deal?
Yeah, and that's where you start to factor in, okay, does the longevity of a holdout really make sense? But I think whenever you start stacking games, and let's say it's 3 games, and the defense, they're not getting to the quarterback, and you see the impact that Micah Parsons not being there has had, then I think that increases urgency on both sides. Now, you're playing a dangerous game there. Don't get me wrong. You're playing a dangerous game. But how much more dangerous would it be if you go out there in week 1, you don't have a deal, and you tear your ACL on the first drive? That's where I feel like $75 million and gosh, 200 is what we're talking about.
Does that change as much? Because I think we always talk about it like that. I think there have been guys, it happened to Dak Prescott. Like, we saw the gruesome injury he had against the Giants and still ended up getting paid.
That's fair, yeah.
I think in today's world, there used to be a time back when I was growing up, back in the 80s, you hear ACL and you're like, career over.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the world we necessarily live in anymore, and especially for a top-notch player like Micah, if Micah were to get hurt, and I'm not pushing that on him at all, but if he were to get hurt, my suspicion is he's still going to get paid by the Cowboys or by somebody because he was just too great a talent for him not to get paid. If a Deshaun Watson can have to sit out of football for X amount of years because of whatever was going on and then become, I think at the time, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
To be fair, that's in the Swindle Hall of Fame.
Guaranteed, right. And guaranteed money. But I'm saying is all you need is one team out of 32, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess the whole point I'm making is I don't know that injuries necessarily in my book kill your ability, if you're a top-notch player, to still be able to get top-notch money.
I think there might be some injury PTSD here, though, specifically, because you talk about when they did the deal for Steele after he got injured. They did the deal for Trayvon Diggs, and then he's been injured these last couple of years. You go back to the opening press conference, and there was a little bit of remorse that Jerry threw out there as far as paying those 2 guys. So, coming off an injury, I would be shocked if Micah Parsons gets as much money as he could if he was not injured at the end of the day.
Right, and that's why if you're Micah Parsons' side, you're doing everything you can to get this deal done now and everything you can to get this deal done before this season. So I'm with Nick. If it gets to dire straits, then you start missing out on games, and it's gonna missing those paychecks are gonna hurt. And
that's
clearly,
big, man.
And clearly, by Micah Parsons being here, you can tell that money is important to him in some facet. I know that missing, I think, $50,000 a day is not the same as missing a game check every week. But nonetheless, if money's that important, then you got to get something done now.
Yeah.
And what? Go ahead. No, you got to get something done now.
I think when you start factoring in the endorsements and the money that he makes off the field, I don't think that hit will be as significant as it would be to, let's say, CeeDee Lamb if he were to hold out from games last year. He's going to be all right regardless. But don't get me wrong, still a game check. I understand it.
Right, and that is building on more money than he's made the last 4 years in his rookie deal.
Absolutely.
So for him, that's much different. Now, for us, I mean, I'd do anything for an NFL
I'll play one game. I'll play one game.
I'll also tell you this: the other risk to that, if he goes that route, the other risk would be, we've all seen it out here. There's a young man by the name of Donovan Ezeraku who is certainly turning heads out here and making plays. I am not saying he's I was about to say Des Bryant. I'm not trying to say he's Micah Parsons. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is the risk he runs is for a 2-3 game stretch there at the early part of the year. Can him, Fowler, Nealon, Sam Williams, can they create enough of a pass rush to where the Cowboys defense looks like, oh, well, how much do we really miss Micah? Now, don't get me wrong. Well, whatever, and I said this on the show the other day when Brian brought that up. For whatever the defense is going to do, my thought is always going to be, how much better would it be with Mike out there, right? So yeah, they could be great, but could they be greater, right? That's where you get into that. But I do think it does lessen your negotiating power. And as we said, when you're in these negotiations, you're looking for leverage. If your leverage is, okay, well, let's see what you do without me, and then they perform really well without you, may not be what it would be with you, but it's really good. It's good enough, certainly, let's say, to get wins.
Yeah.
Then it certainly changes now your leverage. Whatever amount of leverage you thought you had there now dwindles, and it changes your negotiating power, right?
And Micah Parsons, I don't think, has as much leverage as the Cowboys do in this situation.
I agree.
Which is why,
because of those years that they still have, they can control his rights.
Which is why, if you're Micah Parsons and his team, you try to get a deal done as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Because if you don't play, then you're risking the chances, like you said, the Cowboys' pass rush looks great. I think your pass rush is always going to be 10 times better when Micah Parsons is on the
I think
field.
we all agree with that.
But
I think Jerry agrees with
that. Right, yeah, absolutely. Anybody would. And then, you also risk the injury of the risk, of missing game checks. And that's a lot of money for a guy this age, and really any age. Millions of dollars is life-changing money for anybody. So if we're talking about Micah's side, get a deal done as soon as you can.
So what advice would you guys give Jerry and the Jones family and the front office as far as how you would handle it if you were in this situation and having to deal with this whole contract?
It depends. Are we trying to get it done, or are we not trying to get it done?
Well, I mean, what do you think is best? Because I'll tell you, for me, I look at it and I say it's in everyone's best interest if you can find a deal that works.
Yeah.
Now, the point is, I think the way Jerry looks at it is, I already have a deal. So it's going to have to be something, if we're going to do a new deal, it's going to have to be a new deal that both of us, me and you, agree is worth tearing up the old deal, right? And that's where it gets, that's how we end up in the situation we're in right now, is because I think they look at it like we already have a deal in place. And I don't know if Micah necessarily sees it like, I need to honor the last year of this deal.
Then I would at least call the agent and see what they're trying to play with. See where they are, what ballpark they're in at the very least, and then reevaluate from there. It's tough to say, you want to honor a trade request or not honor a trade request, or, hey, fans, don't lose sleep over this, when you don't know what exactly the other side wants at the end of the day. I mean, you have an idea of what the player wants, but the agent's going to make things a little bit more difficult. I just don't think there's been a level of acceptance from the front office that the agent has to be involved here, and that's where this thing just gets so weird. It's tough to gauge, but my advice to the front office would be just call the agent, figure it out from there.
Yeah, I'm with you, Nick. You just got to call the agent. Just start that push and start heading towards the finish line, because otherwise, if not, everybody's just going to kind of be sitting around and look at one another like, are we doing this? Or because Micah Parsons has made it very clear he's not doing a deal without his agent involved. So if that's what's going to be needed to happen in order to reignite things, then just ignite things. I think getting something done before the season is in everybody's best interest, because you can get Micah Parsons back out on the field. You don't necessarily need a ramp-up period for him throughout the first couple games of the year, like we saw at times with CeeDee Lamb when he was holding out. And, at his position, is there really as much of a difference? Maybe, maybe not. But nonetheless, if you can get a guy going at full speed week one against the defending Super Bowl champions, then if that's a game that the Cowboys are really wanting to win, which of course they are, you want Micah Parsons on the field. That's going to make things a lot better and give you a much better shot. So if I'm Jerry Jones, the Jones family, I'm calling David Mulugeta and starting to get this ball rolling.
Best guess on when this deal gets done?
I think the calendar will say September. I don't know when in September, but I think the calendar will say September.
I think this is just similar to Dak Prescott's deal, where it gets done the day of or the day before the opener.
Yeah, I'm kind of closer to you. I kind of think that by the time we get back to Dallas, that about, like a week and a half before the first game.
Yep.
I kind of have a feeling it's going to be in that period.
Yeah. I don't think it happens here.
I don't either. I don't necessarily think it happens here. I do think if I'm just guessing about, and again, I'm looking at the tea leaves of what's happened in the past as well. Yep. I think that period where you're back in Dallas and you're getting ready for that game, that opening game against Philadelphia, I would not be shocked if this is a Labor Day surprise for us. And on Labor Day, we're covering a new deal. But I don't know. We'll see. I think we all kind of are just waiting for it to happen. Certainly in the media, that's always the wait game, right? Just waiting to see when it happens. Yep. But that's ideally, based on history, that's what I would hope. And I would guess at this point is maybe they get it done by that point heading into that first week. And here's the interesting part. My hope is that Micah can then quickly acclimate himself to the rigors of playing in an NFL game.
Yeah.
You're going to have to limit his time. Let's say it happens at that time frame, you're going to have to limit his time in that first game, maybe in the first couple games to get him up to speed. But hopefully sooner rather than later, because quite frankly, I'm tired of covering this story.
Man, all three of us.
All right, we're going to take our final break. We're going to come back. I want to get some camp observations from these guys. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag & Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag & Turf, the official Ag & Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys Collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T connecting changes everything.
Welcome back.
It really does. It really does.
It really does.
You just got to connect, guys.
Final segment of the break here live from Oxnard, California. Let's get to some football, man. We've spent a lot of times talking about. Oh, yeah, this segment brought to you by blockchain.com.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
It was the most bland ding ever.
It was.
Yeah,
let's talk, though, real quick. I want to get to some football because we spent the whole show talking about the contract situation. But let's talk about football here. I want you guys to give me, over the last couple practices, what you've seen. I want to get – this is what we do for both of you guys. I want to get a moment and a player that stood out to you for good or bad reasons, but a moment and a player that have stood out over the last couple practices.
Just the last couple of ones?
Yeah, we're trying since our last show.
I got you.
Yeah, a couple practices.
Let me go player, and I'm going to go Keemon Hall. Looked really good yesterday. Had a couple of deflections. Looked good the day before last. And he's really starting to factor himself into a potential starting nickel role going into the year. This team doesn't expect Trayvon Diggs to be healthy for week 1, so they are going to have to figure out what to do at that cornerback position. And if it were me today, I'd put Elam and Bland on the outside, and I'd put Keemon Hall at nickel. I think, despite him being in a competition with a lot of young guys, he has some veteran experience. He has some veteran savvy. He's been in the league, like 6-7 years already, which is crazy to think about. And I was able to speak to him yesterday coming off the field. And this time last year, literally this week last year, he was invited for a training camp workout, ended up making the squad, stuck around on the practice squad, then made the roster at the end of the year last year. And he had an opportunity to start in those last couple of weeks, but a knee injury in practice kept him from doing so. I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to start in week 1. And I think, that's certainly a player that's caught my eye. A moment, It's going to have to be that CD catch a couple days ago. Great coverage from Deron Bland and bobbling it as he was going down and still hauled it in. And I did a little close frame. I got in on the pixels. He caught that ball. So I think this is the best catch so far at camp.
So we do a replay out here.
Yeah, we do. Right. We have instant replay right here.
Love it.
Courtesy of
we almost
courtesy of LG OLED Evo.
Yeah, we almost didn't have it. My player, this is going to be the happiest Nick's ever been in a segment. Hunter Lipke is my player. This is a guy who, I'm blanking right now. Miles Sanders kind of dealing with an injury at the moment. He's seen a little bit more run at running back, and they're doing everything with him. They're giving him handoffs. They're throwing him the ball on the flat. They're having him block. He can do it all. He's a Swiss Army knife, and I know that Nick has paraded that around for the better part of 3 years now, and rightfully so. I mean, he's a good football player, and that's what Brian Schottenheimer said. All around, he doesn't have a position. He just goes out and plays football, and he's doing it really well. So I'll tip my cap to Hunter Lipke, and then the play would be from earlier in that practice on, I think it was Saturday, when they ran a quick flip to Kevontae Turpin, and they got Terrence Steele moving downfield. They got Cooper Beebe moving, and they just set two really good blocks down the field. Terrence Steele got up on Donovan Wilson, and Kevontae Turpin makes one cut and takes off. Nobody even touched him. So those are plays where you look at Kevontae Turpin and how much they've ingrained him in this offense so far in camp, and you can't help but think that when they get him in space, he's going to be able to make some plays for him this season.
Yeah, that's been one of the most pleasant surprises for me out here at training camp is how much they have integrated him into the offense, when for years since he's gotten here, I think every media person has been clamoring for get Turpin more involved. There's more that he can do. There's more opportunity. The guy just has such rare ability getting the ball in his hands. There are only good things that are going to happen from it, and it seems like that's something that this coaching staff is very committed to doing based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think that $6 million price tag gives you some incentive to find some offensive roles for him now, too.
Now the question is just, can his body hold up? That's one of the things, though, that I will say about him. He doesn't tend to take a lot of straight-on hits. Mm-hmm. Like, he tends to kind of bounce around, and when guys hit him, they kind of glance him. So he doesn't really take those straight-on big hits, which for his body frame is a good thing. But I'm very excited to see what he can do this year. I told Nick the other day, Nick Eatman, I was like, I might in a late round in fantasy take a little flyer on Kevontae Turpin, because I think he's going to have some opportunities, and his ability will mean he'll turn those opportunities into some points for you on fantasy.
That is a good question. Who's the best late round flyer on this team?
Late round or obviously overall, it's got to be CD, right?
Yeah, overall, CD or Pickens. I'd probably CD though. But like a late
or Pickens, like you would put Pickens up there. How early would you take somebody like Pickens?
Oh man, I would go. Oh, I'd have to think here. I'd have to go like probably 5th round. But yeah, you're right. I just think about, like, at the end of the day, how many points could Pickens generate at the end of the day? He could probably be a top 15 receiver for you.
I agree with that. Yeah. I put him in the conversation like I put Devontae Smith. I've had Devontae Smith a couple years, where as the second, if you want to call him the second option in Philly, like, he still puts up pretty consistent, decent numbers. Yeah. He's the guy you can rely on pretty much. You can get some pretty good, and then there'll be a couple weeks when he just will blow up, right? Mm-hmm. So, I put Pickens in that same kind of category. But, I think Turpin might be something you would think about in a late round.
I think Jaden Blue would be a good late round flyer, too.
Yeah, I think the secret's going to get out. Yeah. I think the secret's going to get out.
It's hard to keep it when he keeps making big run plays, man. He's hard to bring down.
Yeah, my fear is just, like, with so many guys in the mix right now, I have a hard time knowing exactly the direction they're going to go. We see it out here at camp, but once you get into the season, are they going to opt for the more veteran guys, or are they going to go? You know what I'm saying? It's just so much. That would make me a little bit nervous.
There are variables there.
That being said, real quick, Cowboys do have a practice this afternoon. It's a joint practice with the L.A. Rams. They'll be out here on the fields in Oxnard, California, if you're in the area. Come on, drop by. But that being said, real quick, before we end the show, I'd like you guys to give me one matchup that you're excited to see today between the Rams and the Cowboys.
I'm excited to see this Cowboys offensive line against the Rams D-line. It's the depth is certainly being tested on the offensive line for the Cowboys. I want to see how they go up against this Rams defensive front that is young, deep. They got a lot of guys that'll be able to rotate in. How does a guy like Nate Thomas factor in at left tackle? Can he hold guys like Jared Verse? And in the inside, Tyler Booker, is he going to be able to handle a guy like Braden Fisk coming in the middle? So there's a lot of guys that I'm excited to see in the trench battle for sure.
I look outside at corner with the Cowboys. You know, you look at the Rams wide receiver core with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua,
got a good one.
Jordan Whittington. They
You have to throw
got
the Texas guy.
Yeah,
I saw
He
that.
has been great during.
I know he has, but I just said you had to throw the Texas guy.
been
By the
really
way,
good.
I love Texas too, so I'm good with that.
And
but-
Adams might not practice today, so that would be even more opportunities for a guy like Whittington.
Right, and then you've got, you know, the rest of the guys like Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee, the rookie Terrence Ferguson's questionable, I know, but nonetheless, you know, you look at the Cowboys cornerback room and just how in kind of dire straits they are because of injuries there. You know, this is a big opportunity for Andrew Booth if he's back and healthy to be able to go out there and play. Deron Bland, are they going to put him outside or in the slot? You talked about Keemon Hall in the slot. Is he going to be able to show something? Troy Pride is a guy who has had a practice or two where he's kind of flashed, but then other times where he hasn't. Same with Andrew Booth. So it's good reps for these guys who may have to be counted on here early just because of these injuries.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about that, Matthew Stafford, according to reports, will not be practicing today.
Yep.
So that does kind of limit that a little bit. You may not get to see the full extent of what this, especially if he and Devontae Adams aren't practicing. You may not get a chance to see that challenge as much as we really want to see it. But there'll be some interesting things certainly to follow out here. It's always a fun practice when you have teams in town, and the Rams and Cowboys tend to have a really spirited practice when they get together out here in Oxnard. So we'll see how that goes. So we appreciate you guys, Jones. We'll be back on Thursday.
Absolutely.
We'll tell you everything that we saw in this practice. We'll also do a little bit of a wrap-up here from campus because it is the last Cowboys Break episode that we'll do here at camp. We're going to do a little bit of a big-picture recap. Some of the things that we liked and didn't like, some players that stood out, some players that didn't stand out. We'll do all of that on Thursday. Till then, for Tommy Yarrish and Nick Harris, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?